Hey everyone, we're going to do 4 examples that apply to complex numbers. And just remember that in complex numbers, we have an I component and a B component. The A component is the real part, and the B is the constant to the imaginary part. So this is the imaginary part. All right, and these are the 4 problems we're going to do. So we'll start with the first one. Now basically on the first 2 problems it's pretty easy. What we want to do is just get rid of the parentheses and collect like terms. You could actually treat I as like an X if you wanted. So to get rid of the parentheses, since we have a plus here, all we have to do is just take them away. You're distributing a positive 1. Now let's group our non-I's together. So you take what's ever in front, 2 plus 6. And now let's take our I components and just whatever's in front of it, you write that. So we have a plus here. And then you collect your like terms and simplify. So basically, let's see, you add those 2 up and you get 8. And then you add these 2 up. You say 8 icicles minus 3 icicles is 5 icicles. All right, so your real component is 8, and your B is your 5. And we're putting it in this form, A plus BI. All right, now let's move on to this one's the same thing, a little harder, because we have this negative. So that's like you have to multiply this portion by -1. The first part I just copied down because it had a plus there. Now, -1 times 8 is -8. -1 times 6i is -6i. Okay, let's group our constants. So that's 2 minus 8. And group our I components. So that's just call whatever's in front. Minus 5i, minus 6i. Now, add these up. So add those 2 minus 8 is -6. And then add those up, combine those, you get -11i. Therefore, your your A is going to be -6, and your B is -11 when you have A plus BI. So we have A plus BI. So if we substituted this in, we would get our answer here. Okay, the next 2, we're going to just distribute. Here, this is 3 times 2, 6. And then we have a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. And 3 times 6 is 18, and you still have the I here. So you can multiply those. So your A component is 6, and your B component is -18, because we want it to look like A plus BI. So if you plugged it in, you'd get 6 plus -18i, which gives you back to that. And the last part is the hardest one. So what we're going to do this one 2 ways. The first one we're going to do is this part. This is called FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. So we do our first. Maybe I should do that in blue like they did. All right, so first. So that's 3 times 2 is 6. And then we're going to do the outer. The outers are here. So that's 3 times I is just 3i. And our inners are these 2. So that's -4i times 2, which is -8i. And then our last are these 2 right here. And that's going to be negative 4 times I times I. 2 i's there. Well, so that's just 2 i's. So basically this equals negative 4i squared. The only thing we can add up here, we can have the 6. We can add these two. They're like terms, so that's negative 5i. Then we have minus 4i squared. The thing you need to know about I squared, if you watched my previous video, you have to know that I squared equals negative 1. So we're going to substitute. So instead of I squared, I'm just going to input negative 1. Now simplifying this, we get 6 minus 5i. And multiply these two, and that's a positive 4. We can still simplify the 6 and the 4. So 4 plus 6 is 10. And then we still have our 5i. So when you have a plus bi, your a component is 10. And your b component is negative 5. Now that's this method. And that method can be confusing if you have never used it. So another way is just using the distributive property. And that's what this is. I'll show you that. So distributive property just means you take the first times this. So let's do that. 3 times 2 plus I. Then you take the second component here, minus 4i, times the same thing. So that's going to be 2 plus I. And then we already did a problem like this where you just distribute. So distribute here, you get 6 plus 3i. And you distribute this, don't forget to carry the negative. So negative 4i times 2 is negative 8i. And negative 4 times I is just negative 4i times I, which is I squared. Now remember, I squared equals negative 1. So I'm going to go ahead and write this as 6 minus 5i minus 4, and my I squared is negative 1, so I'm going to substitute. And then we're right back to where we were before. This equals 4. So we have 6 minus 5a plus 4 now. So that's 10 minus 5i. And again, your a is 10, and your b is negative 5. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.